Welcome back to your daily news recap. Today we're diving into some significant stories, from Ukraine's first F-16 fighter jet loss to the latest in the U.S. presidential race and growing tensions in the South China Sea. Let's get started. We start with a major loss for Ukraine. In a tragic development, Ukraine has reportedly suffered its first NATO-supplied F-16 fighter jet loss. A top Ukrainian pilot, Oleksiy Mes, also known as Moonfish, died when his F-16 crashed on Monday during what's being described as the largest aerial attack by Russia since the conflict began. The Ukrainian military has stated that pilot error is not believed to be the cause of the crash, and an investigation is currently underway. They plan to involve international experts to get to the bottom of what happened. Moonfish was one of the few Ukrainian pilots trained to fly the newly acquired US-made F-16s, and his death is a significant blow to Ukraine's air capabilities. Moonfish, along with his late colleague Andriy Pilshchikov, known as Juice, were instrumental in Ukraine's campaign to acquire these F-16s from Western allies. According to CNN, their efforts were crucial in securing the jets, which are considered vital in Ukraine's strategy to counter Russian air superiority. This incident not only marks a setback for Ukraine, but also highlights the ongoing and intense challenges the country faces as it continues to defend its skies. In U.S. political news, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. finds himself at the center of a ballot controversy in three critical battleground states: North Carolina, Michigan, and Wisconsin. These states have declined RFK Jr.'s request to remove his name from the general election ballot, despite his recent endorsement of Donald Trump and his decision to withdraw from the race in certain states. To catch you up, earlier this month, RFK Jr. announced that he would be withdrawing his name from the ballot in 10 key battleground states to support Trump's presidential bid. Kennedy cited internal polling that suggested his presence on the ballot in these states could harm Trump's chances and potentially help Vice President Harris win the election. However, in states where his name will remain on the ballot, he has encouraged his supporters to still vote for him. Here's what's happening now. North Carolina's State Board of Elections voted to keep RFK Jr.'s name on the ballot, arguing that they had already begun printing 1.73 million ballots with his name on them, and removing it would be both costly and time-consuming. In Michigan, officials stated that minor party candidates like Kennedy, who represents the Natural Law Party, are not permitted to withdraw after the primary election. Additionally, the party cannot reconvene to select new electors. Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, the Elections Commission pointed to a state law that once a candidate has filed nomination papers and qualified for the ballot, their name cannot be removed unless the candidate has passed away. RFK Jr. is appealing a state judge's decision that removed him from New York's presidential ballot due to a false claim of residency. Despite suspending his campaign and endorsing Trump, Kennedy continues to fight to stay on ballots in certain states while withdrawing in others where the race is expected to be close. Turning our attention to the South China Sea, tensions between the Philippines and China are escalating, and the U.S. may soon become more directly involved. During a press conference in Manila, Admiral Samuel Paparo, head of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, suggested that the U.S. Navy could escort Philippine resupply ships in the South China Sea. This comes as Chinese Coast Guard ships have continued to harass, block, and even ram Philippine vessels, attempting to deliver supplies to Filipino forces stationed in the disputed waters. When asked if the U.S. would consider escorting these ships, Admiral Paparo said that within the context of consultations between the U.S. and the Philippines, such an escort is an entirely reasonable option under their mutual defense treaty. General Romeo Bronner of the Philippines confirmed that the U.S. had offered to escort their ships through back channels, but the offer was declined for now. Bronner stated that the Philippines would only consider U.S. escorts if the situation deteriorates to the point where they are unable to deliver life-saving provisions and troops are at risk. For those unfamiliar, the South China Sea is a major hotspot for territorial disputes, with China claiming nearly the entire region under its 9-line claim that was invalidated by an international court in 2016. Despite the ruling, China has militarized part of the sea, building artificial islands and creating military bases, much to the dismay of neighboring countries and the international community. The U.S. has responded by bolstering regional alliances and conducting freedom of navigation patrols in the area, further increasing tensions with China. And finally, in U.S. election news, Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, will appear on CNN tonight at 9 p.m. ET for their first joint interview since becoming the Democratic presidential ticket. As you might recall, Harris announced her candidacy for the Democratic nomination for president after President Joe Biden withdrew from the ticket and endorsed her on July 21st. Harris, who is the first Black woman and first Asian American to lead the ticket of a major political party, has a long history in politics, having served as California's Attorney General and the San Francisco District Attorney before becoming a U.S. Senator. Her running mate, Tim Walz, is in his second term as Minnesota governor and is the chair of the Democratic Governors Association. Walz, a former high school teacher and Army National Guard member, spent 12 years in Congress representing a conservative-leaning district in southern Minnesota. This interview will likely be a key moment in the campaign as Harris and Walz outline their vision for America and how it contrasts with Trump's platform. Be sure to tune in to catch their first public discussion as a team. That's all for today's news recap. We covered Ukraine's tragic loss of an F-16 fighter jet, RFK Jrs ballot battles in key states, the rising tensions in the South China Sea, and the upcoming Harris-Walz interview. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with the latest news. See you next time.